What if I told you there's a country where homelessness is almost a thing of the past? Sounds like utopia, right? Welcome to Japan, a place that somehow managed to tackle a crisis the rest of the world is still wrestling with. But how did they do it? Why do the stats feel too tidy? And who are the net Café Refugees? Let's dig beneath the surface of a society that somehow managed to reduce its visible homeless population by nearly 90% over the last 20 years. In the labyrinthine corridors of Tokyo's Shinjuku Station, where millions of commuters flow like rivers of humanity each day, something extraordinary happens each night at 11 p.m. As the last train departs and the station shutters roll down, cardboard shelters begin to bloom. Yet according to official statistics, these ghostly inhabitants barely exist at all. Japan presents the world with a remarkable achievement, a homelessness rate of just 0.003%, equivalent to approximately one homeless person per 34,000 citizens. To put this in perspective, if homelessness were a city, Japan's would be smaller than a small town, while America's could rival Chicago. The official count tells a story of remarkable progress. Homelessness in Japan dropped by 8% in 2023 to a record low of 2,820 people in April 2024, down from 25,296 homeless individuals in Japan when the first national survey was conducted in 2003. What makes these numbers stand out is how they are gathered. Every year, local officials physically patrol designated public areas. Parks, riverbanks, station fronts, and underpasses. They don't estimate, they count, one by one. Clipboard in hand in broad daylight. Of course, it's not perfect. Japan only includes people who are visibly homeless in public spaces. Those who crash in 24-hour manga cafes or sleep in capsule hotels, not included. But like a magician's trick, the most compelling part lies in what remains hidden. If all factors were considered, the true number of Japan's homeless could range between 100,000 and 200,000, a far cry from the 2,820 individuals officially recognized. Most homeless people in Japan are not visible on the streets. Rather than sidewalks or metro stations, many unhoused Japanese people live in public parks, riverbanks, or train station stairwells, using neatly folded cardboard, blue tarps, and sometimes elaborate makeshift structures. They often vanish during the day, blending into society to avoid stigma. The invisible homeless of Japan exist in a twilight world of internet cafes, 24-hour restaurants, and train station corridors. Tokyo authorities estimated in 2017 that there were approximately 4,000 such internet cafe refugees, individuals who spend their nights in cramped cubicles, borrowing the warmth of digital screens and the anonymity of urban spaces. They are the working poor, the mentally ill, the elderly forgotten by families, and young people cast adrift in a society. You will rarely see anyone asking for money on the streets. It is considered deeply shameful. While Japan has few tents on its sidewalks, thousands live in the margins of visibility. They're called net Café Refugees. Young working adults who can't afford apartments but scrape together $15 to $22 per night to sleep in tiny private booths at 24-hour internet cafes. These cubicles often include a reclining chair, unlimited soda, manga, and Wi-Fi, and they don't appear in homeless counts. To understand Japan's paradox of residential instability, it is necessary to revisit the 1990s. Homelessness grew noticeably more widespread in Japanese society since the collapse of the Japanese asset price bubble across the 1990s and the resulting lost decade of economic stagnation. The men who now huddle in cardboard shelters weren't always invisible. A majority of these individuals were middle-aged elderly men with an average age of 56. They were the people in the 1980s and 1990s who had built Japan's economic miracle with their bare hands, only to find themselves discarded when the machinery of prosperity ground to a halt. Nothing illuminated Japan's approach to homelessness quite like the 2020 Tokyo Olympics. As the world prepared to watch Japan showcase its modern face, a different kind of preparation was underway in the shadows. Homeless people were evicted in 2016 from a park near where the new national stadium was built, the main arena for the Olympics. But Tokyo city officials deny they are moving to force the homeless out, especially for the Olympics. To understand the whole picture, we need to look beyond the streets, into the wards of Japan's vast network of psychiatric hospitals. While many Western countries moved away from mental institutions in the late 20th century, Japan went in the opposite direction, building up its psychiatric hospitals instead. There are over 300,000 psychiatric beds in Japan, the highest number per capita in the developed world, which also helps keep visible homelessness relatively low. Japan has a network of welfare programs, including temporary housing, food assistance, and job training. But due to strong social stigma, many homeless individuals refuse help, fearing shame or exposure to their families. The shame runs so deep that many homeless individuals in Japan actively avoid being counted, hiding from surveys and outreach workers like vampires fleeing daylight. Also, the Japanese government's definition of homelessness is remarkably narrow. The reality is far more complex, with hundreds of homeless individuals in central Tokyo hiding from public view, and many others living in conditions that don't meet the narrow definition of homelessness used by the Japanese government. The internet Café Refugees who spend their nights in cramped cubicles don't count as homeless because they have a roof over their heads. The young people who rotate between friends' couches, fast food restaurants, and park benches exist in a liminal space that official statistics cannot capture. The real achievement is that Japanese society has created systems so effective at hiding social problems that even the problems themselves begin to believe they don't exist. Japan didn't stumble into its ultra-low homelessness rate, it engineered it. The turning point came in 2002 when the Japanese government passed the Special Act on Homelessness. The legislation tasked local governments with conducting regular surveys, building support systems, and developing long-term reintegration strategies. The city governments expanded access to temporary shelters, rolled out job training programs, and created pathways to public housing. One of the most notable programs was the Self-Reliance Support Centers, which provided transitional housing and counseling to help people re-enter society step by careful step. So why hasn't Japan's homeless population spiraled like in the US, UK, or parts of Europe? Japanese culture places extreme value on public cleanliness, order, and harmony. It's not just frowned upon to sleep in the open. It's seen as disrupting social equilibrium. Unlike many Western nations, Japan's visible homeless population has fewer issues with drug addiction or mental illness. Not because these don't exist, but because they're often institutionalized, hidden, or culturally suppressed. Alcoholism is present, but hard drug use remains exceptionally rare due to strict laws and strong social taboos. Unlike in many countries where youth homelessness is a concern, Japan's homeless population is mostly elderly. With little family support and no pensions, many seniors end up unhoused, despite having led dignified lives for decades. Many homeless people in Japan work, often in construction, delivery, or security. They're on society's edge, but not entirely outside it. Japan's streets may look clean and crisis-free. Homelessness hasn't been solved, it's been disguised. Can a country claim victory over homelessness if most of its homeless have simply learned how not to be seen? If this story surprised you, just wait. We've got more mind-twisting tales coming your way, because the world is weirder, sadder, and more fascinating than you think, and we're just getting started.